Finally, we're going to talk about, in this video, we're going to talk a little bit about gimmicks. I don't like to use gimmicks to train young horses. The things we're going to use here, we're going to show you only one of them is useful, I think, on a young horse. These can be used, however, for a horse that after he's trained gets a little heavy in the bit, needs to learn to back off and be a little more responsive. This particular setup runs the lines between his front legs and attaches it up over the saddle. With every move, his leg bumps his face back off the bit, and the horse very soon does learn to stay back. Another variation of this is to run the reins not between his legs, but simply through the girth and tie him up over the saddle. This is the same thing you would do with a surcingle when you start training a horse. A lot of people will do. Again, I don't propose that as a good method either. I think if we tie a horse's head back too soon, asking for collection before we have flexion in our horses, we tend to get them heavy in front and strung out behind, and they lose their pretty natural way of going. This horse has never had any of these gimmicks on him before today. This is his first time to feel any of these. Again, you see a horse who has learned to find the point of release and get there and stay quiet. Here he pushes into it, but again he finds the point of release. And now we take him back out and lunge him some more. This horse actually works pretty good with these gimmicks on, but it's because he's already learned flexion, he's already learned to give, and so we don't get in trouble. Again, I use them occasionally for a horse who's become resistant, but I don't use them to train my young horse to do it originally. The next gimmick we're going to look at is probably one of the gentler gimmicks that we'll see, and that gimmick's going to be our running martingale. The running martingale simply directs the pull of your rein. I adjust the rings in the running martingale so that they're throat latch height on the horse and no higher or no lower. I don't want to pull his head down to his knees. The same principle is used here as we used when we used the stirrups to ground drive him. We want our pull to stay low, so it will encourage him to keep a low horizontal neck as we go around the pen. This is a very mild type of a gimmick. I think it is useful on some horses. However, I think if your horse is conformationally built to travel with a level horizontal neckline, that really this doesn't add a lot. That when the horse gets flexible and soft and relaxed, his head will go in the position where it needs to go. But if you want to use this, go ahead. I don't think it does any harm. It's one of the gentlest ones you could use. If you got a horse who carries his head too high naturally, has a naturally high head set, this may help, but I think you're really fighting yourself to try to take a horse with a high neck set and try to make a Western pleasure horse out of him. This last gimmick is one we see a lot, called the draw reins. The draw rein here I attach to the girth of the saddle, runs up through a pulley in the bit, the loop of the D-ring snaffle, goes back up around the saddle horn, goes down the other side through a pulley on the other side and attaches to the girth on the other side. Some people, instead of attaching to the girth, will actually attach between their front legs again, like we did with the first gimmick we looked at. This is to give a horse a lot of flexion and control, and it does. It forces him into a position pretty easily. However, to ride this, I think you should ride with two sets of reins. The standard rein hooked to the bit, which we normally would use to ride, and then the draw reins is our secondary rein. I want my horse to learn that when I pick up with light pressure in his face, that he gives me flexion. The draw rein comes into play only when he resists. I also don't want to ride this every ride. I find a horse with draw reins really wants to get behind the bit after a while, and that will put him heavier on his front end, let him string out further behind, and you'll lose the good natural collection you have in a horse. Gimmicks for the older horse who knows better and is giving you resistance. In the young, untrained horse, no, don't use them. Teach him flexion and then teach him collection and control afterwards. It comes more natural that way. You'll have less stress, and so will the horse. This horse actually does pretty good because he's nice and quiet.